Welcome to another episode of Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Ahmed Shawky, and today we are exploring the dynamic world of resilience and value creation in the rapidly evolving Balkan financial sector. I'm thrilled to welcome Ediola Bicaku, Head of Internal Audit at Intesa Sanpaolo Bank Albania, one of the region's leading financial institutions. She also served as the chair of the Audit Committee at the Albanian Association of Banks. Ediola is a board member of the Albanian Institute of Internal Auditors. With over 2 decades of progressive experience in internal audit and risk management, Ediola has witnessed firsthand the transformation of Albanian's banking sector and its evolution towards integrated GRC. Her experience spans two major Albanian banks, BKT, where she spent a decade developing enterprise risk management capabilities, and now Intesa Sanpaolo Bank Albania, where she has been leading the internal audit function for over 8 years, while navigating the increasing focus on sustainability and ESG. As part of Intesa Sanpaolo Group, one of the European's leading banks with strong ESG commitment, Ediola is at the forefront of integrating GRC and ESG considerations into traditional banking audit practices. Her role involves ensuring compliance with both local Albanian regulations and international standards, making her uniquely positioned to discuss the practical challenges of ESG and GRC implementation in emerging markets. Ediola, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ahmed. It is my honor. Thank you for the invitation. And let me also congratulate you on your work of art, Level Up ESG, for what you have achieved with your very purposeful commitment and passion.
Thank you so much. It's really great to have you today. Ediola, you have had an impressive journey progressing from assistant inspector to head of internal audit, and during which you have witnessed the evolution from traditional audit approaches to integrated GRC. How has the concept of GRC transformed in Albanian banking, particularly as part of the Intesa Sanpaolo Group, with its strong European ESG commitment?
Allow me to create some context. Operating in a developing country such as Albania is, while being within a European banking group, such as myself, there is this constant challenge of keeping the balance of high expectation with the local complexities. I need to say that the concept of GRC in Albanian banking sector has significantly transformed in recent years, driven by Albanian government program to align with EU standards, but also our central bank's commitment to regulatory harmonization in such direction. Yes, my journey started from traditional compliance auditing. You mentioned inspection, and this is a word that I had forgotten, but it evolved quickly as Albania's financial sector matured, and especially with the international presence of important financial groups such as Intesa Sanpaolo Bank Albania. Here we had to bring our audit practice in alignment with integrated GRC frameworks. The real shift happened when we stopped seeing risk, compliance, or governance, now even ESG, as separate conversations. Starting from 2018, in our bank, we adopted the integrated internal control system assurance among the 3 lines of defense. With this new guidance, we started to ask how exactly these aspects, governance, compliance, and risk, intersect with each other, and how can internal audit, being positioned at the center, act as a connecting force or trust partner among them. Together with our team at ISP Albania, have had the opportunity to develop internal audit, to become this active partner in resilience, and not to make it about inspecting or policing, as we mentioned, the very dead language of auditing, but doing it about foresight and preparedness for the upcoming challenges.
That sounds great. Doing it for foresight and part of resilience and preparedness. I love that.
Thank you.
So being a leader at one of the European's leading banks with significant ESG commitments, How are you integrating ESG factors into your audit program, audit plans? And also, what are some of the specific ESG risks that are most relevant to the Albanian banking operations, and how do you address those? Three questions in one.
Yeah, but I will start from the bottom. Maybe it's easier for me and for the audience. It is my understanding, the way that I see currently what is happening in Albania, that the main challenge, or the one challenge, is translating exactly the EU taxonomy and CSRD expectation into actionable items in the small context and in the small market that we operate. As for the Albanian banking sector, I would mention climate-related credit exposure, ethical lending in sensitive sectors, and social inclusion in financing as main ESG challenges and initiatives even. Along with that, at ISP Bank Albania, we are highly committed to be best in class with regard to the governance practices in applying high leadership standards, sound internal control system, and employee protection. In our bank, going now to the beginning of the question and maybe what I am interested most, we have already enriched our internal audit risk model, the so-called audit universe, with control objectives with regard to ESG aspect. ESG governance and ESG credit are our main audit focus. Given that the bank currently has already introduced a circular economy transformation financing concept and associated program, our audit is giving specific attention to ESG credit risk assessment processes related exactly to ESG risk-sensitive sectors, but also to ESG-sensitive transactions.
ESG-sensitive sectors and ESG-sensitive transactions. Would
Which
love to
has
learn more.
become our 2024 and 5 audit plan. Yeah.
That's great. Speaking of technology and with your oversight of ICT functions and the increasing digitalization of banking, how are you leveraging technology to enhance your GRC capabilities? And how do you balance automation with human judgment in governance oversight? You have multiple governance oversight roles.
Of course, although being in the Balkan side, maybe not at the center of what is going on. However, we are also progressing from the static controls from the inside to the real-time monitoring, if we can, and to insight. And we are developing our system, our ICT infrastructure to monitor ESG indicators, especially those linked to credit processes I mentioned, all of that in an automated way. And we are further developing or utilizing data analytics in our stress test scenario analysis to simulate exactly long-term impacts. However, we continue to believe that these developments are cutting edge, they are the present now, but yet they don't replace human judgment. Professional judgment, I would say, starting from business, risk management, and concluding with us auditors. We'll be here to reframe, to connect the data, to ask the right questions, and assess exactly the ethical and strategical implication behind and beyond the numbers.
Yeah, human judgment will always be there, will always be needed, and technology is meant to augment and support. My question is like, in this rapidly evolving landscape, how are you preparing your team to assess ESG related compliance? And what advice would you give to the audit and risk management professionals who need to navigate both local regulations and international ESG frameworks?
Albania is aligning its regulatory framework with the European Union's CSRD because it's part of its broader EU integration reforms. And we hope that by 2030, Albania will be part of the European Union. And apart from the central government initiatives, also Bank of Albania, the central bank, has issued for public consultancy and assessment its first guidelines on climate-related and environmental risks. And this is also a huge, very welcomed development, especially for banks like mine, where we have also the ECB context in our bank, not only the local one. Therefore, it becomes imperative for our internal audit departments to enhance our capacities and our competencies on sustainability and ESG, that's for sure. And as it has happened also with other functions in our bank, internal audit as well has an appointed ESG referent. So we have a dedicated colleague in our team who has this badge, who takes part on all related bank activities and initiatives on ESG matters, ensuring but also nurturing a strong collaboration and also this cohesive approach with other important GRC functions of our bank. In the meantime, I mentioned our audit plans and our audit programs, even the thematic ones, are already integrated with GRC topics, and everything is done with a clear sense of purpose, targeted, focused one. Our audit team, in the meantime, for sure, by doing also this methodological approach, is developing, should focus on its skills, on upskilling ourselves. And we also have a dedicated training program on ESG and respective reporting standard topics. Now, going back to my call to the colleagues or to the peers being in the same context, maybe I wouldn't take the courage to be comprehensive, but for sure starting from our own personal experience here at ISP Albania. And for those that navigate even both, not only local context, which is much easier, but also the international requirements, although they are not yet adopted at ISP in Albania, I would say. My shout out would be, don't wait for everything to be ready or for these CSRD reporting requirements to be fully adopted in Albania. I mentioned 2013 as a UAE country, but for sure, maybe in the upcoming 2 or 3 years, we know that even non-EU countries will be subject to CRCD reporting. I would say let's start small. Let's start from where we are now, from what we can audit right now. Governance, risk management aspects, they have always been there, irrespective of the non-financial reporting requirements. And from here, we can all progress in a more bold, safe way than when the time of compliance will come.
Absolutely. So we don't need to look back, looking forward. What do you see as the most critical GRC and ESG challenges for banking in the Balkan?
Yes, looking forward is also embedded in our Audit 2035 vision from the IIA Global. So for sure, we should speak the same unified language. However, I should admit that the Balkans and Albania are still small ecosystems for the big complexities that CSRD brings, that's for sure. And this requires trained and competent professionals, audit professionals, thus mindful, purposeful investment in human capital, but also systems and tools is necessary. And internal auditors' involvement exactly for this foresight vision and forward-looking vision that we talked about should be multidisciplinary, multilingual, and strategic capacities for sure should evolve as well. And still, it is my mantra, and we share this in our everyday discussion, that ESG is not the regulatory checklist. We have this big opportunity in Albania, exactly, being also part of ISP Bank Albania. We have embedded this mindset, this philosophy that yes, in the local context, it's not yet required to be ticked as a compliance tick box or regulatory requirement, and still this is a philosophy of living or of being. And in this, internal auditors, to my point of view, to my humble point of view, these are the real pioneering that internal auditor can invest. And I believe in this, you mentioned at the beginning, I truly believe in this resilient audit presence. It's the strategies, it's always about the technological development, but it is also about presence. And in our internal audit language, this is about showing up boldly, fully, with purpose and with courage in order to make sure that, yes, we are also embracing successfully the ESG and CSRD complexities.
Showing up with purpose and courage. Go beyond compliance to create value and resilience. I It's really amazing line to close and to wrap up this episode, this outstanding episode. Is there any final message that you would like to leave our audience with?
Not big, but hoping that it will be maybe the main audience will be for sure curious from the European Union, but also colleagues and peers from the Balkans and Albania. Please start small. Please start from what we know that you can do now, and while we evolve and while we upskill ourselves, be ready for the future, which is pretty now.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. It was great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much
And
for
I
giving
look
me
forward.
some space.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to other interactions. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of success.